Guys, what is up? Finally, the snow is gone after a very long delay. I can't put it off anymore. I can finally give you my thoughts, feedback, and long-term review owning a Jaguar F-Type P300. Let's jump into it. So this review doesn't really need to cover whether or not the 2021 Jaguar P300 is the best bang for your buck in terms of the Jaguar lineup. And the reason for that, Jaguar no longer makes the P300. Yes, it's being discontinued. I was one of a very lucky group of people who bought sort of the last batch of these. Unfortunately, you're not going to be able to pick up this car anyway, but I still feel like after nearly a year of owning it, that I could give you my long-term thoughts and feedback on this car. First, let's talk about exterior. This car looks amazing. There's no denying it. I have the black on black package, which I wasn't 100% sure if I was going to enjoy it. Over time, I've come to really enjoy how this car looks. I mean, the body, it's been redesigned and it looks phenomenal. And with everything else going on with the black pack, I think it comes together to create a really awesome looking car, really awesome package overall. The looks are tough, aggressive, and definitely sporty. Definitely a lot sportier than the car itself actually is, but we'll talk about that shortly. It has a deployable spoiler that automatically comes up when the car goes past 110, and then once you slow down to 90, that goes away. You can put it up for cleaning mode, but you cannot manually control the spoiler. That is just how it's set up. There is actually a spoiler deploy button, but again, it just really works when you're in cleaning mode, so the car is off. Otherwise, that button is very useless. Now, with this being the P300, it's a baby version of this Jaguar, the 300 horsepower model, or just slightly under 300 horsepower, I believe. It has sort of the squared off exhaust. And ironically, and kind of hilariously, you can find this exact exhaust on a Honda Civic. I'm not kidding you. The exhaust sound has been something of a contention point with this particular model. I actually didn't get to test drive a 300 when I was buying this car. I had to test drive a P340, which is the higher end spec with the bigger engine. And that car sounded amazing when you turn the sports exhaust on, which this car also has. But with this being the smaller engine, it's just a 4-cylinder. It's a very small engine. It's pretty economical, I will say. I drove to Ottawa from just outside Toronto on a single tank of gas, which is incredible if you consider the fact that this is a sports car. But unfortunately, the sound is not that good. You can get a couple of snarls and pops out of it if you manually shift. It has paddle shifters. There are definitely better sounding, less expensive cars on the road. There's no doubt about that. But if this is the kind of car that you're looking for, this is probably the cheapest car in this kind of class. Kind of odd, there is no auto lock after a certain amount of time. So when you walk away from the car, if you forget to lock it, at least so far, I've not found a way to actually make the car lock itself. My $30,000 Volkswagen Tiguan had this feature as standard. Kind of disappointing. It's one of those Jaguar quirks. All in all, the exterior, I love it. I know a lot of people weren't a huge fan of this facelift where Jaguar sort of slimmed up and brought the lights on the car down versus the old models where they sort of wrapped around and were more like haunched. I do actually like this thinner, cleaner look, a little more sophisticated, kind of a more young, enthusiastic design, very refined, very clean, very sleek. And again, with that black package and the overall look, including these all black rims, this car looks fierce. If you're looking to spec a car from Jaguar, especially the F-Type, with this sort of package, this is sort of what you're gonna get. If you're into this sort of style, I would definitely recommend the black package. Okay guys, so let's talk interior here in the F-Type. Again, if you look back and compare it to the E-Pace that I recently had, everything up in this car is just a little bit more upmarket, a little bit more high-end feeling. So starting of course with the wheel, the button layout looks similar. The wheel itself is leather wrapped, much thicker and sturdier than what we had in the E-Pace. Really nice paddles back here as well. Screen essentially the same, but it does have much more configuration on the screen level. It's a little bit clearer, a little bit nicer back there as well on that particular screen. That's my personal opinion. I'll let you guys be the judge of that. Moving into the center console area, everything in this car is extremely driver oriented and very driver focused, and that's quite nice. These turn dials up here are much more tactile than the ones that were in the E-Pace. They have click and they do exactly what they're supposed to do, and you feel it. As soon as you sort of touch it and turn it, you get the click, you get the feedback, and it takes the action. And again, these are heated. Click in and you can set that. Steering wheel also heated. It's quite nice. It does have basic cruise control and your volume up and down, and your voice controls there as well. This system here, again, is exactly the same as what was in the E-Pace. I think it's maybe a little bit more responsive, but that's not saying much. This is a very cheap system. It's very antiquated and very slow. My Volkswagen Tiguan from 2018 has a much faster, more elegant, personally laid out system. And I do still dislike that the climate control elements are done here. So if I want my feet to be air conditioned or heated, I have to toggle that here. Same with the sync function, which is just odd. Again, I would prefer just a physical button. But speaking of the buttons down here are quite nice as well. These give you very nice tactile feedback when you click them. Shifter, and with sport mode, you have your drive select modes. You do have a rain, ice, and snow, which I have actually been forced to drive this car a little bit in the snow, and it's not being terrible, which is pretty nice. And of course, the dynamic or track mode, electronic parking brake, stab track off, and this is the fun button. That is the sports exhaust. Otherwise, it's a pretty simple layout. A little bit of lighting, very minimal in the lighting. This model that I have has the panoramic sunroof, which is delightful, because without it, I think this car would honestly feel extremely claustrophobic. It's very small and very tight, and again, very driver oriented. But one thing that I will say, tons of legroom. My legs can stretch right out, and I don't feel like I am too tight. Tons of legroom down there, and it's very comfortable for even a 6'1" guy like myself. So if you're taller, probably will be okay in the F-Type. Just be wary, the roof is not that high up. If I let my hair grow out too long, it actually does touch the roof. But otherwise, this car is solid. The build is solid. Everything up here is really nice and solid. Decent sized glove box. It's a little tight under here in terms of storage. It only goes down about like yay far. And then in the back of the car, you've got just a little net. There's no other storage. And then that's literally the trunk and the end of the car. On the road, it's a fun car to drive. There's no denying it. 300 horses, it gets you where you need to go, and it gets you there fast. I know a lot of people say this is the baby F-Type, but it doesn't feel like it. It sounds like it, but it feels way faster than its engine and its specs would lead you to believe it would be. And again, it's kind of the combination of the car being so low slung and really not having much to it at all. You can get going very quickly. It does have a snow and rain driving mode, and I have used it quite a bit. It just revs it a lot higher so you have more traction and more control, and it does the job. Overall, it's been tons of fun to drive this car. If you ever get the opportunity to get behind the wheel of an F-Type or something like an F-Type, I totally recommend you go and do it. So now I guess we're at the end where I have to kind of give you my overall thoughts. And my overall thought is you don't need one of these cars. This is a toy for me. It is something that I have wanted for many, many years, that I saved and worked very hard for. No average person needs a car like this. Cars like this are fun until they get high mileage, and then they all fall apart and they cost way too much money to repair. These cars are notorious for falling apart, for breaking down, for having problems. I've had a couple of weird things happen with it already, which I won't go into. I don't want to bash the car. All the stuff was very graciously handled by Jaguar Land Rover Oakville, under warranty, no questions asked, and in a very quick time. And again, they gave me an E-Pace as a loaner for the entire duration of my repairs. Now, if you've got all the money in the world, this isn't the car you're gonna buy anyways, because this, again, is the baby Jag. You're gonna go for the big boy. I can definitely say that coming up on a year of having this car, it's been tons of fun. And again, this probably is not the car for you. But if you're a fan of cars like this, and you can go and test drive one, do it. You're not gonna regret it. You're gonna have a blast, and that's what these cars are for. They are emotionally inspiring. They get your blood pumping, and you enjoy your time behind the wheel, even when there are things that aren't necessarily conducive to daily driving, like your screen being super far away or having to look down while you're in the middle of going 120 kilometers an hour to change your air conditioning control. Stuff like that is sort of lost in this genre of car. So yeah, that's been my thought on the Jaguar P300 F-Type, and I will see you guys in the next one.